Harry Potter is a series of 7 fantasy novels that chronicles the lives of a young wizard, Harry Potter, and his friends Hermione Granger and Ron Weasley, all being students at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. The series has sold over 500 million copies worldwide and has been translated into at least 80 languages, as well as spawning a global media phenomenon that includes films and video games generating billions of dollars in revenue, all of which wouldn't exist without the legendary British author and philanthropist Joanne Rowling, most famously known by her pen name J.K. Rowling. Her inspiring rags to riches story shows us she went from struggling as a single mother battling with rejection, loss, abuse, poverty, and had to overcome many other challenges and hardships in order to achieve all these accomplishments. How did she do it? How did J.K. Rowling become one of the most famous authors in the world? Hello and welcome to our channel, where we look at notable personalities and entrepreneurs by pulling back the curtain on their accomplishments to discover the secrets of their success. If you enjoy what you see, hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more motivational videos about the lives, triumphs, and lessons learned from some of the world's most notable industry leaders. Joanne Rowling was born on the 31st of July 1965 in England. Her father was an aircraft engineer while her mother was a high school lab technician. Rowling had always enjoyed reading and writing stories since she was a child. Their house was overflowing with books. Her relatives praised her storytelling abilities. At a young age, Rowling read the autobiography of the civil rights activist Jessica Mitford. Mitford became Rowling's heroine, and she read all her books. Rowling aspired to be a writer. At the age of 6, she wrote her first book, Rabbit, simply a story about what else? A rabbit. At age 11, she attended Wydeen School and College, where Rowling met Sean Harris. The two became very close. They became immensely close. She states that it was a friendship that helped her on her journey to becoming a writer. Sean was one of the first people in her life to believe in her as a writer. This helped instill belief and confidence in her ideas. At the age of 15, Rowling's mother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Due to her mother's illness and a strained relationship with her father, Rowling stated, "Home was a difficult place to be, and that her teenage years were unhappy. You will never truly know yourself or the strength of your relationships unless both have been tested by adversity," she says. Rowling believes that it is essential to let written characters come from the deep place inside you. The characters and events written by Rowling in Harry Potter were inspired by roles played by people in her own life. She stated in an interview, "The urge to write often comes from a wish to rearrange the reality you're in." And so, Rowling decided to draw inspiration from her unhappy teenage years, from her struggles and hardships. We often see individuals that achieve enormous success use their own lives and struggles as motivation in their professional careers. Rowling applied to Oxford University in 1982, but was rejected, one of many rejections she would face. Rowling always wanted to be a writer. However, she chose to attend the University of Exeter, where she studied French and the classics. Rowling was still an active writer, even until this point. Even though she was a typical Exeter student, she was always writing. Rowling was writing compulsively from age 6 to age 25. She points this out as one of the habits that improved her skill as a writer. After graduating from Exeter University, Rowling moved to London and worked as a secretary. Not the most glamorous life, but it paid the bills. It was during this time that her life was about to change forever. On a delayed train trip from Manchester to London is when the idea of Harry Potter came to her. A moment of inspiration from a lifetime of writing and one of the greatest characters in history was born. Having no pen or paper with her, she fully explored the characters in her story in her imagination. Her mind became her drawing board. Rowling has always believed that imagination is the foundation of all invention and innovation. In fact, for most successful entrepreneurs, imagination is the key to their success. Napoleon Hill, who has written what is arguably the best business book of all time, Think and Grow Rich, devotes an entire chapter to the importance of imagination in business. On December 30th, 1990, Rowling learned of her mother's death from multiple sclerosis just a day before New Year's Eve. Rowling had already begun writing Harry Potter when her mother died, but she had never told her mother. Her writing was influenced by her mother's death. She described this time as a year of misery. Life's tragedies had only begun to weigh heavily on her shoulders when she went on to lose her job. Another setback, but nonetheless, Rowling pursued to find a fresh start in Portugal, where she taught English as a second language. It was here that she met Jorge Arantes. On October 16, 1992, they married after falling in love. Rowling's first child, Jessica Isabel Rowling, was born 10 months later. named after her favorite childhood author, Jessica Mitford. Despite the joys of having a new baby, Rowling and Orantes' marriage was on the verge of collapse. Orantes was quite abusive to Rowling, so much so that he publicly admitted to slapping her. The abuse became increasingly severe over time. One evening, Orantes threw her out of the house. She returned with the police the next day, packed a few belongings and fled to Portugal together with her daughter. Short and catastrophic is how Rowling describes her first marriage. She later filed a restraining order to protect her and her daughter. Rowling struck another low when she arrived in Scotland after that. She experienced extreme poverty, which caused her to rely on state aid to survive. She would skip meals to feed her 5-month-old baby. After contemplating suicide, Rowling was eventually diagnosed with clinical depression. After a failed marriage, being unemployed and while trying to raise a baby alone, Rowling realized that she had failed on an epic scale. She felt she was the biggest failure she knew. However, this realization also brought a deep sense of what was important to her, and that was writing. She then put all of her energy and efforts into her writing. Despite the difficulties faced by Rowling, above all, she believed in herself. Rowling spent long hours in cafes writing. She embraced the opportunity to write instead of dwelling on what life had currently given her. Rowling understood that working hard is important, but there is something that matters even more: believing in yourself. In 1995, she finished the first manuscript for Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. She submitted the book to 12 publishers, but one by one they all rejected her. But by now, rejection was no longer going to stop her. A year later, Rowling then submitted the manuscript to Bloomsbury Publishing House. They too were considering rejecting it, but the chairman of the publishing house, in what proved to be a monumental yet simple decision, gave the first chapter to his own 8-year-old daughter to read, and she loved it. And that is when Bloomsbury decided to publish it. Rowling, however, was advised against using her actual name to publish the book. Publishers believed that the book wouldn't make enough sales if the audience knew it was written by a female. The book was then published in June 1997, under the pen name J.K. Rowling. The K added to her name stands for Kathleen, her paternal grandmother's name. From this point forward, her life was never the same again. She went on to receive a multitude of awards, including the British Book Award and Children's Book of the Year. Her career took off, and she later published another 6 books in the series. She was the first writer to have all 3 books in the top 3 spots on the New York Times bestseller list, and she became one of the richest authors at billionaire status. Despite that, she still faced a lot of criticism from the public over the content of her book, with some accusing her of promoting Satanism and witchcraft. But she has often said that the beauty of literature, film, and music is it's utterly subjective. You will be criticized, but you can never please everyone. Rowling is the epitome of hard work. You've got to work, she says. It's about structure. It's about discipline. It's all these deadly things that your school teacher told you that you needed. Today she has fortune, fame, accolades, and the knowledge that her work has impacted millions of people around the world. Rowling still continues to write to this day, but under a secret alias. She also uses her resources and talents to help different organizations. She is the president of a charity and helps write children's stories to help one-parent households. She also funds research to find a cure for multiple sclerosis. And that's how J.K. Rowling overcame abuse, depression, rejection, loss, and become one of the world's most famous authors, impacting children and adults alike all around the world. What did you learn from Rowling's success? Tell us in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Until then, keep turning failure into persistence, rejection into inspiration, and bring out that inner passion that can change the world. You never know what your life could mean for so many people.